Hey, what's up, guys? Hope everybody's doing good. I'm going to talk about a couple things today. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday. I'm going to wait for a few more people to get on. Cummins or Detroit? We're going to talk a lot about different equipment. Jay, appreciate that question. Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to get this started. I wanted to wait for a couple more people to get on. Make sure to hit that like button. Let me know where you're viewing from. I know there's a lot of work out there. Let me know where you guys are viewing from. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, make sure to share. I'm going to go over a couple things today. Super chat. We're going to go over super chat. Guys, if you got a question, I may not be able to hit everybody up, but hit that super chat so we can get those questions out. Hope everybody's doing well today. South Carolina. South California. Hope you guys are doing well. Ohio's in the house. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Make sure to hit that like button. Houston, Texas. I heard you guys are busy down there, Jay. Real busy. Update on the new shop. We're waiting on a couple more green tags. Landscaping is going to get knocked out in a couple weeks, so we're very excited about that. What's going on, Houston? I hear you guys are busy down there. We're going to talk about that. Virginia in the house. What's going on? Michigan later. Yeah, I hear you. Atlanta in the house. What's going on, Atlanta? Georgia. We're going to get this started. Let's get this started. I appreciate everybody joining us today. We're going to talk about a few things today. We have the update on the truck market. This is a lot of what's going on from Ohio. Everybody join us today. So we're going to be talking about the truck market, or I'm going to be talking about the truck market. I want to give you guys an update. I see a lot of trending things going out there of guys buying trucks, and everybody is kind of uncertain about what's going on with the industry right now. I kind of wanted to give you what's going on. So I talked about Houston being busy. We know Houston's busy. Right now we're dealing with an influx in imports right now. Guys, this is something that pretty much hasn't happened in history. I know we talked about this before. We're tired of hearing history, but just in Houston, for example, I'm shouting out to Houston because Houston is showing port imports. This is the ports coming in, the imports coming into Houston. The difference from last year to this year is 145% difference increase. That's just in Houston, okay? That's kind of why I was pointing out Houston. I know Houston has been super busy, and we're going to talk about what this is doing to the market and what this is doing to the truck market as well, the used truck market. And if you own trucks, how important it is going to be to keep up with what you have, because you're not going to be able to come across any equipment right now. Equipments are going to be very tough to come across. The imbalance between imports and exports is something that has just never been seen before, and I'm going to tell you what's going on with it. The imbalance is what I mean is there's more imports coming in than there is exports. There is so much, they're paying so much for imports for freight coming in to move that freight. They're paying more than they are to export it. So what that ends up doing is they're actually turning down loads, exported loads more in particular agriculture that they're actually turning down, which is creating a big imbalance. So, but when you look at like the carrier side and somebody that's actually sending a container full of soybean to Asia, for example, you don't know when you're going to get that container back. You don't know what's going to happen, when you're ever going to see that container back. So a lot of these companies are being really picky about letting their equipment leave. Guys, if my audio is too high, let me know. They're really being picky about letting their equipment actually leave the United States. And it's crazy because there's such an imbalance when it comes to imports. And it's so backed up at the ports already. They can't even receive all this freight in time. And what it's end up doing is creating a real strain on the carriers, especially the smaller carriers. You guys, I know, have been seeing rates going through the roof. It's been very fluctuating, and I want to talk about fuel as well. I know I saw that something that's been something that's been very, very on owner operators' eyes is fuel. I know you guys are very worried about fuel, and rightfully so. I kind of wanted to talk about that today. Let's look at fuel. Let's look at fuel right now. I'm going to move this over here. Sorry, I didn't have the screen swapped over. But in particular, we're going to start with diesel. If we look at diesel right now, look how much, this is gasoline, this is gasoline prices. Gasoline prices is the one getting hit the hardest. Gasoline's at $1 already increased from a year ago right here. And if this is diesel's getting there to $1. I know everybody's very concerned about this, but we had a lot of refineries go offline during the winter season, so that kind of just, and then the high demand in diesel is just kind of throwing everything off. Because if you look down here, and this is something that you can access online. This is government website. You can access. It's very easy to access. But this is very interesting. If you look at the percentage increases, or the percentage of what it costs to actually distribute and market it, this is kind of increasing here, 18%. But diesel's gonna go up. Diesel's gonna go up. It's not gonna go. I wouldn't say it's gonna go too much higher than what it is now. It is higher than it is last year. Everybody was kind of turning their back towards diesel, especially manufacturers, when it comes to not being ready for this type. So when we look at exports and people not wanting to send containers out because there's a container shortage. There's a lot of freight that's being pushed to the land, to ground, because at first, when COVID hit and all these planes were flying empty, air freight was cheap. So air freight was being moved at a cheaper than land freight. So there was a lot of people that were moving freight and then putting under the belly of planes under passenger cargo, and they were able to do that. But since all that capacity is already filled, everybody's turning to land. Now, land rates are still a little bit lower than it compared to air or sea, but once it's here and moving it, this is where we're starting to see a little bit of problems, because a lot of carriers, when it comes to dedicated freight, and we talk about dedicated and not wanting to be dedicated, a lot of people will steer clear from dedicated because they want to be tied. They like to jump on this market freight. Market freight is mostly what a lot of carriers are working with, and they're calling in freight that trying to get higher rates. But it's interesting because I was looking at a couple articles over the weekend, and I was reading that, like, Warner Martin Transportation. These are all different. I'm gonna get to some of your questions here in a minute, guys. If you want to highlight your question, make sure to hit us up on Super Chat. So on this article that I was reading about Warner Martin and JB Hunt, and how much they've increased in the dedicated freight. We already know that these larger carriers run dedicated freight, and that's a big pie, or a big portion of their and these are companies that they've been doing this for a long time. But when you increase dedicated freight in such a unsteady market, it just shows the demand for drivers and the demand for trucks. Okay, so and not only that, but you also have other carriers, kind of like C.H. Robinson. Those are called 3PL carriers. Those are still larger carriers, but they're more they built their networks off of smaller carriers. They've actually started building dedicated networks to kind of get people dedicated to freight, because a lot of people want to be open to the market. Nobody wants to get tied down to a contract when it comes to running market freight. I've seen plenty of decent cheap trucks. Okay, we're going to get to this. We're going to get to cheap trucks, and I know this is what the topic is, but this is all, it all goes together with the strain that's happening on the logistics side of trucking, and what's its effect on the used truck market. If you're out here trying to get a truck right now in this market in 2021, with all these items that I'm bringing up right now, with all this freight moving, all this imbalance, a lot of carriers, when you're mentioning carriers adding this much dedicated freight, dedicated lanes, dedicated trucks, drivers, they're buying a lot of the trucks. Okay, so they're buying a lot of new trucks. When we go to truck production, we talked about this, about e-trucks last week. If you guys checked out that video, manufacturing delays are so behind due to the lack of semiconductors, and you hear it on the headliners about semiconductors and what is semiconductors? These are all chips, microchips, whatever the case may be, to help or finish building these new trucks, and we're still playing. We're still dealing with backed up trucks, and we're still manufacturing diesel trucks. Last week talked about e-trucks. I want to bring a little bit about the newer technology that diesel is coming out with. But this is just more of important. This is more an important issue on why you should keep up with your equipment and scheduling your maintenance. Not wait until the last minute. Not wait until that engine light comes on. And when that happens, when you wait till your engine light comes on, more than likely you're going to have more repair and you're going to have a longer downtime. So, and with manufacturing delays, as I mentioned, with semiconductors, some of the parts have been affected, not too many, but some of the parts have been affected. But newer trucks are not being able to be manufactured on time. These larger carriers are keeping their trucks longer. You're going to see a lot of trucks out there that are on the market are not going to be that good of trucks, is basically what I'm going to get down to. Check out the other videos that I've had about DOT inspections, and these are things that you can check on your own. You can familiarize yourself more on what you need to look for, because what you don't want to do is get into a bad truck that has no maintenance or didn't have any maintenance done, and you buy it. And okay, the check engine light is not on at that time, but you get down the road, your check engine light's on, you find out you need DPF filters, you ends up having, and you don't have time to budget for it. You have to budget for it, guys. If you're buying a used truck, and you check the maintenance records, you check the inspection yourself, you're able to get it checked out by an outside shop, and you're pretty confident it's a solid truck, it's still very, very recommended, I would recommend having a good budget in place, that you're going to have extra money in case of a breakdown. Up into 5,000, at least 5,000. And if you can get more than that, that's better. If you can do like 3 months of operating expenses and repairs, that's very good. That's very good savings before getting out on the road and getting out there and getting things done. Because once you get out there on the road with a used truck and you don't know, you're not testing it, you haven't tested it. And shout out to a lot of customers that have bought trucks in our area, and they send them to our shop. A lot of these trucks have been kind of sitting around, so you can do a preventive maintenance inspection, you can have it checked out, but until you actually get it on the road and start running it and getting everything warmed up and putting it into road conditions, that's when you're really going to start noticing where is it. For example, wheel seals start to leak if the truck's been sitting for a long time, and you get it out there and you start riding. Those are items you got to look for that you're not going to be able to see when you're in a shop, going over it or moving it to a shop to get it inspected. So keep those in mind. That's why it's very important to save money for those type of repairs. Make sure to check your filters, transmissions. If you're getting these automatic transmissions, make sure to check the filters. Check the oil if it hasn't been changed, if it doesn't look like it's been changed. A couple more items I wanted to mention about new trucks. The new trucks are out there. Of course, they're not able to meet manufacturer deadlines or even needs. So, what I've already heard is Intel is already building a plant out there in Arizona to kind of try to start building these semiconductors in-house because of all the issues that they've had. And the new technology that's coming out with diesel, they're going full force at it. They're spending a lot of money trying to figure out ways, not just electric. They understand it's not that diesel and electric is not going to be just a jump. It's going to be, I talked about this ever replacing before. And when I read different things like this about, there are different forces of trying to get ways to figure it out. They've been working on this for a long time already, and I it's interesting to see the information, but they understand that it's not just going to be like a light switch from on and off. But one thing I wanted to bring up that Cummins come up with, and this is this is not nothing that they're using now on the highway. This is items that they're just testing, but the results are incredible. And this is what I brought up to you guys before in some of my other videos on how I believe that in-cylinder approaches are going to be the solution, and not just e-trucks or zero emissions. Some of the trucks do have zero emissions out of the pipe, but as I mentioned, the stricter guidelines are starting to measure it by brake horsepower on how much NOx you can actually. So it's being more focused on in-cylinder approaches. So Cummins comes out with this, and they're using it on the X15. This is called dynamic skip fire, and this is not nothing new. This is something that's done. GM has done in a while back, but it's pretty interesting because the results are amazing. You got increase in fuel economy of 20%. Now, we talked about how much these diesel engines are actually you're not able to harness all the power from these diesel engines. You're actually wasting a lot of it. So these new type of technology is just other ways for them to extract more energy out of the fuel or the fossil fuels that we use. If you look at the decrease in emissions of 70%, 70% emissions, and this is in cylinder. This is not something that they're actually even another after treatment system or anything like that. And I mean, it's bad that EPA has forced diesel manufacturers to reverse design solutions for emissions standards, but this is really where it's at right now. So when you're buying a used truck and you have a truck that has an after treatment system, this is more important why to look into why it's important to. I'm sorry, I was reading there a lot of questions. I want to get you guys caught up. There's a lot of questions. Hit me up on Super Chat so I can highlight some of these questions. So, as I mentioned, Cummins' technology with Tula is very, very, that's cutting edge right there. 70%, 20%. They're not using it on highway yet. They're more concerned about not the cost of went big. Everything's going up. Everything, the fuel's up, as I mentioned. Insurance is up. One of the biggest concerns that I see for owner operators is going to be, of course, the cost of fuel. Fuel's going up. And guys, what I don't want you guys to do is try to save your money on maintenance, because maintenance is gonna be where you're really gonna get hurt when you're pushing these trucks too far, especially when it comes to filters. After treatment systems are very, very delicate. So when you come and you're driving these trucks and you have a check engine light and you're continuously pushing the truck, what ends up happening is the filters get caked up, just more and more compact with soot, and a lot of these bake and blow procedures are not even enough to clean these filters up. So a lot of these companies or shops are still using bake and blow processes, which we've started to stop. We actually stopped using bake and blow. We do the washout, and I know you guys have heard this before, but we don't do it in house. We outsource it due to contaminants and environmental purposes, but they use solutions to backwash it out, and they've found that that's a safer way. And when I talk about how the EPA has forced manufacturers to reverse design issues, and we talked about deletes. I know you guys want to get deletes done, and it's cheaper, it's faster. Old trucks are cheaper and faster to repair without warranty. I thought you were talking about deletes, but if you're talking about older trucks, and I'm glad you brought that up, older trucks. The only thing that I see an issue with older trucks, and you can see it across the board, is since they're not manufacturing the parts anymore, and the larger parts, the injectors, everything's refurbished. It's hard to get real good parts. It's hard to get a solid part because you're dealing with having to replace injectors over and over and over just to get a good set of injectors. And then the dealers aren't really being too helpful when it comes to swapping those injectors out, because you're having to pay for them right up front. So it's very tough. But if you can get a good deal on an older truck, it's pretty much going to be a lot of money that you're going to have to put in that truck to get ready, road ready. And road ready is, it's suspension, tires, brakes, everything road ready. And this is why I don't really prefer, or I don't recommend you go to older trucks unless it's already been all the way through, because yeah, you can buy a used old truck to see, hey, what is this gonna save me? By the time you replace suspension, tires, wheel bearings, front leaf springs, cab bushings, cab suspension bushings as well, control arms. What I mean like upper control arms for the cab. If you're buying stuff, an older truck, just because it has a rebuilt engine, think about the suspension. I mean, it's over 1 million miles if it's already been rebuilt. So you're looking 2-3 million miles on a chassis, suspension, and cab. If all that's haven't been done, the truck has been shaking a lot, so it's hard to get a real good seal on those older trucks. So during the summertime, if you're working in the South, it gets really hot. During the wintertime, it's hard. It's just, those are the things you got to look for when you're dealing with older trucks. And when older trucks, if you have been a truck driver for a long time, and or if you own a trucking company, if you own a few trucks, and you're trying to recruit drivers, and everybody knows drivers are number one right now. They're being recruited all over the nation, and you try to recruit them with an old truck, and somebody's trying to recruit them with a newer truck. There's a good chance they're probably going to go with that newer truck, maybe because of comfort. If they're showing that company has good maintenance plan in place, that's more of a reason for them to probably go with that company. Especially if there is a maintenance, I kind of want to take that back. If it is a newer truck, yeah, guys, be careful. Make sure that there's a maintenance program. Don't have an owner just buy you a truck and then throw you in it without road testing it at least, because I just know how it is being stuck on the road. It's not nice. It's not nice. So check out the DOT video, guys, the DOT inspection video that I've done in the past. That's going to just familiarize on what you can check for, the rust on the suspension, especially if you're looking for older trucks. The thing is, when I'm talking about what the market is looking like right now, when it comes to how much freight's coming in, and the imbalance and the shortage on equipment, the backup on manufacturers not able to get these new trucks out due to the lack of semiconductors, Warner, Martin, large fleets moving into the dedicated market, trying to add more trucks. It just goes to show how much the equipment shortage is, and just to be careful out there when you're buying these trucks and it looks like a good deal and they've been on the market for a while. You got to really look through, you really got to look through them to be sure you're not going to be getting you a bad truck. One thing you don't want to do is, and I've seen this, a lot of guys buy trucks and they don't have any money saved and they have breakdowns. And what ends up happening is you don't have any money saved up. So there you go. You're stuck, and a lot of the cost is going to be with after treatment systems. I saw an article just this morning that talked about how much audio. If it may be on your side, you're the first one that brought audio up, but the article was very interesting about you got me off train of thought over here, man. Well, the article talked about what owner-operators saw as the number one cost, okay? And the number one cost is going to be their after-treatment systems, okay? It used to be diesel, but now the uncertainty is going to be on after-treatment systems. It has a lot of uncertainty that's happened with the drivers, and rightfully so. The way that you guys can avoid this as a driver, as an owner, is follow your OEM recommendations. Besides the oil change, I don't recommend you go that far without an oil analysis. If you're going to go 50,000 miles, do an oil analysis, but do not idle. Do not put a PTO on these trucks. If you are idling, and I know it's not easy not to idle if you're sleeping in the truck, then that truck might not be ready. You might have to put a Pro Pack on that, or a carrier, or any kind of APU that's going to give you AC in that truck so that you can sleep in that truck. But you don't want to idle the truck, okay? There's so many reasons why you don't want to idle the truck. You're idling the truck and you're building up too much soot because it's not burning off all the fuel. We know that. And doing it for a long period of time is not only going to build up soot or in your cylinders, but it's going to build up soot all downstream. It's going to go through your EGR cooler. It's going to build up soot there. It's going to build up soot in your after treatment system. It's going to build up soot all in your system. And your sensors, guys. If you're following my channel, you know I share photos. If you haven't followed me on Instagram yet, check us out on Instagram at TAT Express Inc., where I'm just sharing photos of what kind of repairs come through the shop. I know you guys, you've been wanting more repair videos, and we were waiting to get into the new shop. We're wrapping up a couple more things with the green tag, so we're really excited about getting moved in. But once we're moved in, we're going to be doing some more repair videos for you. But these are the type of videos I want to give. I want to still continue to make, just because there's still a lot of information that I'd like to get out to you guys, because I see it out there. I see what's trending. There's a lot of people buying trucks. There's a lot of people wanting to get into the market or get into the industry, but you have to be very cautious when you're buying buying equipment, because as we talked about this before, you're gonna have to deal with a salesman. You're gonna have to deal with the shop. You're gonna have to deal with a finance company sometimes, and not all those people are gonna be in your best interest. So try to check all your dots, or check all your T's, and make sure everything's good. And not only has this brought a strain onto the trucking industry, the supply chain as it is now, but it also has put a strain on shops. Trying to get trucks in and out is very difficult right now, guys. So we're trying to schedule you guys in a little bit more in advance, a little bit more open schedules, because we're running into either parts issues, the resources it takes to get trucks in and out of a shop. It's endless. So everything has caused a strain on you guys. I understand, the demand is up there on the drivers right now. Your time is limited. When it comes to repairs, try to schedule this stuff. When it comes to, hey, I need a budget what I need to budget, so that I can have at least money saved up, at least 5 before I stop the truck for a week or so, to get everything that needs to get done, get it inspected. Be careful what type of shops you use. We do inspections on all our trucks. We enforce that. We work on trying to make the shop more efficient when it comes to filters. And I say we're not doing bake and blows anymore. We're looking to swap filters out and get you guys in and out, looking for the most common issues that come up. So these are the issues that we kind of look for, and we talk about what can you do as an owner on the after treatment systems. And we talked about not idling. Don't idle. I wouldn't recommend idling. I know some of you guys are going to do this, and it's not easy. A tri-pack or a Thermo King is very expensive, but when you look at the longevity, how much you're going to be saving, and the headache you're going to be saving, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot easier. And I'm jumping back and forth. I see the comments here. I know a lot of you guys made comments already, and I see the guys are jumping on this side. And a lot of, you bring up engines, older engines. You got an older engine here, an 87. Older engines are fine. They're old, they're more durable. But the thing is, when it comes to repairs, and we're already having issues with modern trucks and parts. When you go into older trucks, you're going to run into those type of problems as well. Not only are you going to run into parts availability, but you're going to run into parts quality. And that becomes more of an issue when it comes to working on older trucks. But I appreciate everybody joining us today. Make sure to let me know where everybody is watching from. I know I asked you at the beginning where you guys were watching from, and I appreciate everybody joining us today. We talked about the imbalance and all the imports coming in, like it's crazy. You would think that they would make some kind of restriction on how much imports they would be accepting, but and then not wanting to export agricultural is something that actually they're already wanting to step in on this. I don't know what they're going to be able to do about it. And when I say them, I mean, the government. I don't know what they're going to be able to do about people turning down exports. Mainly soy and feed is what they're exporting, agricultural for Asia. For, I guess they're rebuilding their stock. They had to kill off a lot of their hogs and having to rebuild that. So and a lot of this is part of the agreement. The trade agreement that's in place. So a lot of the exports are wanting to go out, but nobody wants to move them. rightfully so, because not wanting to get your containers back can be a very big headache. So I understand that. I just kind of want to revisit some of the things because I don't want to just go over the items too quickly. Guys, you're out here buying trucks, everybody's looking for trucks. Let me know what you guys are seeing out there. I've been in this industry for a long time, and I've already noticed like prices are going with houses. If you guys are anybody understands houses are going up. There's a shortage in manufacturing for houses, and it's the same kind of pattern that's happening on the truck side. When it comes to manufacturing with houses, it's kind of slowed down, of course, with the pandemic. And so what? Let me get a drink of this. But what I've noticed there's a lot of different factors that started affecting the housing market that's causing people now to have to buy used houses. So what that ended up doing is started to move in, everybody trying to get used houses and buying, expensive, crappy, like the comment that just came in right now, expensive, crappy houses. And it's the same thing with trucks. If you look at the processes on buying a house, they go through an inspection, they hire a third-party inspector to come in to look at everything. It's the same thing, the same kind of process that you should look at when buying a used truck, because if you don't take these processes like that, is buying like a used house and not knowing what's going on with it, you can have some major issues. And on the highway, on the road with a load on you is even worse, because you're gonna have brokers on your back. They don't care what you did, how much you spent. They just care about that load making it to their shop or making it to their customers. So it could be a really stressful situation, but it's happening. I see articles about how many new carriers are joining the trucking industry, and there's the record amount of truckers joining the industry. So there are a lot of you guys coming into the industry, and it's fine. Just be cautious, guys. I want you guys to be successful. I want you guys to be able to make it through the rough times. So don't just jump all money in, nothing saved, buying trucks blind, crappy, expensive trucks just because you may be eager to get in. I'm just letting you know there's not going to be a lot of good equipment out there right now because of all this stuff that I'm mentioning to you guys. Texas had the freeze, for example. We had the freeze, and that affected refinery. That affected resin production, which is PVC. So PVCs is what they're going to be using to build houses. So a lot of this stuff that's happened throughout time is what causes kind of like the perfect storm. And when you look at used trucks, it's never been like this before. You've never seen Warner or Martin Transportation, JB Hunt pushing so much towards dedicated freight. I mean, carriers, I meant shippers. Shippers are actually looking to pay more money to contractors dedicated than they would on a market freight, just to try to lock trucks in, because they know that nobody wants to be locked in no more. And a lot of these contracts are starting to become more flexible, months at a time. So if you guys are moving market freight, consider maybe talking to them about dedicated. They may be, or I'm sure they've already reached out to you. Everybody's already reached out to you. But I'm saying the big thing is there's got to be a solution on the imbalance. Right now we got too much freight coming in. We're not able to move it all. We don't have enough going out. There's a lot of strain on everybody trying to move the freight. There's not enough, so what's gonna go on with this? It's interesting to see. It's interesting to see. Hit up Super Chat, guys, if you wanna highlight your question. There's a couple more things that I wanted to mention about the land rates. Guys, if you are moving market freight, let me know what your rates are looking like. There's got to be an increase in everything with all this demand. Some people are gonna want to make more money off the carriers or off the drivers. But you gotta, what I see when influx like this happens, people are throwing money at carriers because they want their equipment, they want their power, is what they call it. Their power, their units. And if it's not trickling down to the drivers, then it's tough. So I saw a comment earlier that talked about brokers, and they're gonna be like that. Everybody is right now is gonna see who can when it comes to freight. If the freights are going to keep paying the way they are, which is they're not going to keep paying as high. This is kind of why I told you about dedicated. The thing is, the backlog is just continuously stacking and stacking and stacking. If you're saying 100%, 145% increase in imports from year prior, this is from all coastlines in the United States, almost over 90% from the year prior, but we have issues getting exports out. I mean, we already have issues with ships waiting on ports. Our ports aren't large enough. They're trying to create solutions. This is a really interesting market that we're in, and this is honestly not a buyer's market. This is not a truck buyer's market. So a lot of the questions that you guys are gonna that you have about these trucks, they're gonna go back to everything that I kind of lay out at the beginning. Do your DOT inspection, the things that you can kind of look for. Look for those type of things that are gonna stand out to you. Those videos that I have of DOT. Watch it a few times. They might be boring about checking and getting up under there, but it's gonna save you a lot of time. And in most cases, like for example, we get a lot of calls about us going out and checking out trucks, guys. And I wish we had the resources that. And shout out to everybody that's been sending us your resumes. We've had a lot of interesting people apply, and I really wish we had the capacity to add everybody. So thanks for everybody that's really applied. And as I mentioned, as the capacity for or the demand for this is just continuing to rise. What are we going to look at? I don't feel like equipment is going to go. Manufacturers can't meet deadlines right now. There's so many strict guidelines on manufacturing that I don't see equipment shortage being a quick resolution anytime soon. So what I feel is going to end up happening is the equipment that you do have. It's happening now. It's just keep up with your maintenance on what you have now. Don't skip out on your maintenance. Make sure you're budgeting. We talked about different freight increases. All this freight that's coming in, guys. If you guys aren't making more than you were making a year ago at least, then look into who you're pulling for, because there's a lot of freight out here. As I mentioned, Intel's making a new plant in Arizona. That's going to be I can't wait to see that. In-cylinder approaches, we talked about this. We talked about the different ways that they're working with Cummins in Tula. The dynamic skip fire by Cummins is very interesting. That's some information. Let's get to some of these questions. Let's see here. Let me see here if I can get this out. Let me see what I set it up for you guys over here. All right, here we go. Let's get on to some of these questions now. All right. So there's a lot of questions that come in. I'm going to read it on the screen up here. A lot of people coming in. If you want to get your question highlighted, make sure to hit it up on Super Chat. Okay, we got a couple guys. We got one guy here from Texas. Texas, shout out to, I think you're down from Houston when you shout out to me earlier. Volvo engine has 900K when is overhaul due. Just got I shift. I try to survive for now. Looking for a decent glider. Can you help? Okay, so if you have a Volvo with 900K on it, and you're asking, if you wanted to overhaul it, this is what I tell a lot of customers that want to overhaul it. First of all, do an oil analysis. An oil analysis should be something that you're doing on a regular basis, just like you're doing oil changes. If you're buying a used truck and you're trying to do an oil sample on a used truck right while the truck is sitting, that's not really an accurate reading. And the reason why is because if they did just change the oil on that truck and that truck is sitting and you do an oil sample, you're going to get a fresh oil sample reading. So you're not going to have any contaminants. When you do an oil sample, you're going to be looking for anything that's foreign, okay? I mean, in an oil sample, there should be nothing but oil in an oil sample, okay? You're looking at the condition of the oil, the viscosity, make sure it's meeting the recommendations. But you want to look for any kind of foreign material. Any kind of foreign material is not acceptable. So I had a guy send and I looked over it, and I meant to get back with you, but I've been having so much going on with getting these last green tags wrapped up for the new building, and we've get so many questions coming in. But guys, if you get an oil sample reading with any metals in it, is not good, okay? Especially if you have high mileage. So any kind of metals that they're testing for, tin, aluminum, copper, these are all type of metals that are internal metals that mostly are going to be bearings. If you have a DD15, you have a high aluminum reading, more than likely you have either the rocker boxes being worn or something like that. But so at 900K, if you're not having loss of power and your fuel mileage is still decent, and everything's still running, you still can pull loads, that's still, you still got 100K, over 100, maybe 200K left if you take care of that truck. You said you're looking into gliders. Gliders gets brought up very often, and what I always say about gliders is that a glider, you're going to get an older truck. You're going to get an older truck, and what's going to happen with an older truck is you're not going to be able to get parts. You're not going to be able to get anything that's going to be able to, for example, you're not going to be able to get injectors for a 60 series. You would have to go through so many different injectors, packs of injectors, just to get a good set of injectors. I don't know why it's like that. And it's so frustrating because we have customers come in with injector issues, and we buy a set of injectors or refurbished injectors. They don't even offer new injectors anymore. These are the issues that you'll have when you look at buying a truck that's an older engine in there. I applied for a truck loan on a 71K and they asked for a 26K down payment. Their excuse was that the banks are hesitant to give loans during COVID. Well, you look at the banks in period. Okay, so loan, yeah, you're right. Lending is getting a little bit more stricter, and rightfully so. You look at how much money has been dumped into the economy. I think over 300% cash has been dumped into the economy since COVID-19. So, and what that did to banks. Okay, banks made money off of lending. So when they're lending, when people are borrowing money all the time, they're making money. But now that there's so much money that got injected into the economy, there wasn't that many people going and borrowing money no more. They wanted to buy trucks up front or use the cash, whatever the case may be. There was more money available. So that made it harder for banks. So when you have banks that are not getting money off of interest because the market is weak when it comes to loans because there's so much cash out there, and then on top of that you have them leveraged, like for example Archical. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing that, but it was a major hedge fund that was using banks' money for stocks, and what happened is the banks were kind of figuring this out, and they were like, hey, we want our money back. So they had to forcefully sell off their stock to liquidate all their cash back to what the banks owed them, or what that company owed the banks. And some of the banks didn't even recoup their money back, so they lost a lot of money. So that really put a strain on the financial market. If you look at the housing market as well, there's not that many houses now, so the loans are weaker, or the demand for loans are weaker, I should say. So yeah, you're gonna see it across the board. What I would probably suggest is maybe trying somebody else. I mean, I'm not sure. That's a lot down that they're asking for that. I've seen guys driving with no money down, in some finances. So it may be who you're dealing with there. Any info on the blue DEF Platinum? Does it really help? And is it worth paying for? I'd have to look into that. If you're looking at a more highly formulated DEF, that's probably something it wouldn't hurt. Also, maybe some kind of lubrication for your diesel fuel for if you have a high pressure pump. But always keep in mind, maintenance is going to be number one. So if you have a DEF filter on that system, make sure you're getting that changed out too, and before jumping on and grabbing a different type of DEF. If your DEF is questionable, wherever you're buying it from is questionable, then yeah, I would probably look into getting a different one. But yeah, these questions are really good. A lot of different questions here. Shout out from California. I want to make a trip out there. I would like to make a trip out there. It looks really nice. I got covered one of these questions here. I've seen plenty of decent cheap trucks. I was just looking before I came here. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, Bernie. Let me know. Did you see anything that was actually, something you need to jump on? There's gonna be some cheap trucks out there. If they're cheap right now, they're questionable. That's all I would mention. If they're questionable, if you can get as much history as you can. If not, just be sure to have some money saved up because you're gonna put it in that truck. If you're not putting 20 something thousand, 20 plus in a truck, and you or even more than that, I haven't actually bought a truck in a long time, so I'm pretty sure it's even more than that. It's probably 30,000, 35, 40,000. If you're not putting that amount of money into a truck and you expect to get by with, a $10,000 truck, it's not going to happen. You may be able to get that truck or whatever, below that value those numbers that I've mentioned. If you buy the truck below that value, over time, you're going to get there to the value that I'm getting at. So if you get a truck that's already road ready, by doing your time and looking into it and making sure it's the right fit for you, you have a better chance of having more money saved. If not, then of course, you're gonna end up having to spend more money on it. It's just plain and simple. Brokers still playing hardball. Yep. And the reason why I say that, and the reason why they're doing that is because they're trying to recoup money. Whatever they lost during COVID, and they were, moving freight for cheap, whatever. That's they're trying to make their money back. You would have to play the same ball. There's a lot of freight out there. I haven't been on a load board, but with 145% increase in imports just in Houston alone, that's a big increase. That's a huge increase. Like I said, that's history. Never seen that type of stuff before. Still got some couple questions. Better get you a pre-emissions Freightliner if you can find one. I know you like to talk about that. I'm not talking that cheap. I mean about 25 to 40,000. Okay, so as I mentioned, I haven't been in a truck. I haven't bought a truck. I should say I haven't bought a truck in a long time. So because I know how the truck market is, so it's tough to kind of decide right now. It's kind of like a house. Like back a few years ago, you could, hey, a decent house, you can give somebody a price for a decent house. Now it's so inflated. The market is so inflated. I don't know if $40,000 would, I couldn't tell you. Somebody could probably try to charge you $40,000 for a piece of crap truck that still may need not be road ready. And you won't find out until you get it on the road and get that truck moving over a long period of time, and then you're going to start seeing where your problems are coming from. So those are the issues you want to look for. So $25,000, $40,000 may be the number. I would recommend getting these trucks looked at. As I mentioned, I always tell you this: look at it yourself with DOT inspection. Check out my DOT inspection videos so you can familiarize yourself. Coolant bottles can tell you a lot. If you look at a coolant bottle and it looks really dingy, that's just an indication that truck hasn't been taken care of. You don't know what the internals look like. Anything over 400,000 miles needs after treatment systems need to be replaced. I mean, this is everything: filters, DPF filters, DEF filters as well, dozers as well, air filters, air dryers. These are all the type of things that need to be replaced. The longer they've been run with these issues or with this maintenance, and without neglection of maintenance, is just going to be a higher probability of you having to spend that money. Even if you try to turn off and, hey, you know what, I'm going to buy one and I'm going to delete it. Who's to say that truck was even taken care of? And the delete is not going to even do. The truck's already, say for example, the engine's already tore up or wore out due to bad maintenance. Now you want to put a tune on it, and now you're trying to make this sucker run even harder after already running so many miles with bad maintenance. This is not a good plan. Yeah, I seen a W900 with 60,000 that I said it needs to rebuild. It needs a rebuild, and he wants $60,000. So when I was back, and this was years ago. This is before pre-COVID. So I'm here to tell you how the market is with all the freight coming in, with all the major carriers, moving dedicated, adding more trucks. Look what that does. This just puts the strain on the used truck market. So knowing these things, don't rush out here thinking, hey, if I don't get a truck next week, all this freight's going to be gone. Man, there's people that are there's guys that are in ships right now that are off the shore of you could pick any coast of the United States that are just upset because they can't get to the port to unload the ships, and there's more ships coming. It's not gonna take your time. Is what I'm gonna say. Take your time. If you already got a truck and you're already in one of these trucks, work your way out of it. Not out of the truck, but do your maintenance. Catch up on your maintenance. If your DPF filters are giving you problems and you keep getting regen issues, let's go ahead and swap those filters out. If you still have issues, you may have to do the one box. Okay, but you're still checking out your other items first, your sensors. These are all items that need to be checked out by diagnostic software. And this is another thing that I wanted to bring up. In one of my other videos, when I talk about diagnostic software and OEM software and how important it is to use OEM software when checking these trucks, the reason why I don't get into much details about which OEM software to use is because I don't want to throw you a software and you think, hey, I'm going to go get this cheap computer, this whatever little laptop cheap computer that you think that's going to work for you, especially with Volvos. Okay? Volvo software recommendations, the requirements are high. And if you don't know what to look for in computers, if you don't know, okay, what a processor is or how many, what the actual specs are on a computer is, then you can still cause some more problems, cause yourself more problems. If you say, for example, you get a computer that doesn't meet the requirements for whatever diagnostic software that you found online, what's going to end up happening is it's going to be very slow. You're not going to be able to communicate with the truck. You're not going to be able to get through the truck easily. So this is why it's important to understand what you're working on and who you're working with when it comes to getting these trucks looked at. So I wanted to bring that about the software because I felt like that was really important. Let's just catch up to a couple more of these questions. This guy's Cruz Luna here. He says, I got a 2014 Cascadia DD15 blow up, thinking about put a 99 Detroit. How much is a harnessed conversion? Okay, so if you're going to convert over to a 60 series and you have a Cascadia, it's going to be difficult because I wish it was easier. But as I mentioned, in my other older videos or my past videos, I talk about how they are webbing these different ways to safeguard the emissions demands. If you put and this has happened to not us, but this has happened to somebody that has called us, and it was a junkyard actually. I won't mention the exact place, but they called us, and they didn't call us. They just mentioned it to us. They said we've replaced this Cascadia engine with another Cascadia engine. So a DD15. Cascadia had a DD15 in it, and it had a bad DD15, so they swapped it with another DD15 that had a different year model. The truck didn't want to start. It had issues with communicating. You have to reprogram the actual ECM, which is the engine control module, to the CPC, which is the actual computer that goes on the cab, which is the chassis of the truck. They're not manufactured all together. They're manufactured separately. So to get the Cascadia to actually run right, you have to program the DD15 to the Cascadia, the CPC. If you swap them, you can't. You won't be able to do it. So you would have to get a dealer to agree, somebody that has access to this type of software, to agree to write, or actually they would have to cancel out the CPC, try to get the actual older 60 series to start up with the Cascadia. And a lot of times, if we've called just to get support on existing items with, say for example, you try to call for an engine swap. Detroit's very specific. They're only going to be with OEM swaps with OEM. That's it. That's just cut and simple. So I can talk about this all day, but it's just cut and simple. OEM is with OEM. And to get any kind of support, and when it means like, hey, I have a breakdown and I have issues where my truck is not starting anymore or something like that, most shops are not going to be able to help you if you're not dealing with OEM stuff. Some shops would, I'm not saying all of them, but some shops will be able to help you. But if in some cases you won't be able to get anything done, some people won't even mess with them. So I appreciate you bringing that up. But it's gonna be crews. That's gonna be a little bit time consuming, and it's gonna be it's gonna be very challenging. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's gonna be challenging just because of those things that I mentioned. What do you think of a new CGC? What's this guy? How can you help truckers with cash flow at your shop? If I show up unannounced and say fix anything, will you do some kind of payment arrangement? Gary, I appreciate that question. We won't be able to do anything like that just because there's so many trucks that come through, and TAT Express is so small. We don't have that type of access to capital to be able to make payment arrangements to put this, because with our agreements with the dealers, when we pay our vendors, I mean, when we pay the vendors, they pay, we got to pay for everything up front. So that's very I mean, I appreciate you asking. Maybe we do offer a third party finance company, but you have to kind of build a relationship with them. We do offer quick pay, and I'm sorry that I didn't mention that. We do offer quick pay, but it's a third party. It's not TAT, and I should have mentioned that at the beginning. My apologies. We do offer quick pay, and that will help you with the cash flow there, Gary Bates. So check us out with that. It's been a while since I actually ran around myself, so I apologize about that. Yeah, so what do you think about a new CNG truck? I have a 2009 in California, and I have an upgrade. Well, CNG is still kind of like developing. So what I do like about what they're doing with the newer technology is they're taking their time with it, instead of kind of like backward designing, like I mentioned before, how they backward design the issues with the after treatment systems. Now I feel manufacturers were forced to get out here and produce these engines and put them out on the road without road testing them and really field testing them to figure out what's going on with them and what kind of problems you're going to have. But what happens is they throw them out here and they starting to figure out these problems, but it's put a lot of strain on owner operators, small companies all across the board. And a lot of people can agree to that. And what they're trying to avoid now, and I guess this is all water under the bridge. What this all does now is create a more timeline for them to try to figure out the evolve to more efficient trucks. I like the idea. I like the idea of dynamic skip fire when it comes to 20% fuel economy. I've also saw some more items that Tula and Cummins are working with that comes with a mixture of hydrogen, and that's the first time that I've seen hydrogen coming from the main manufacturers. The times that I've brought up hydrogen was from somebody, building it third party out of a garage, and it still works. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but for manufacturers to actually start making statements about using hydrogen just goes to show that they're going to be moving towards that way. It's going to be, we need to start work. We're going to end up burning more, getting more energy out of the fuel that we're using, out of the fossil fuels that we're using. This is what basically what it's going to come down to. So, CNG is another form. I kind of feel like CNG is not as versatile or flexible as diesel fuel. If you're in California, you don't have an option, then that's just probably something you're going to have to run with. It would be a real slow transaction. It will be. It says, I got a comment here. It would be a real slow transaction from diesel to electric 100%. It's not going to happen. It's not going to have like a light switch like I mentioned before. And they understand that. They all understand that. That's kind of why the dynamic skip cylinder is just like, I'm not saying that's going to be our solution, but these are the gaps. Now, what we can do in the meanwhile, talking about the future, what does that do for us now? This goes to, back to maintenance, the importance of maintenance, to keep on a maintenance schedule. Don't wait till that check engine light comes on. Schedule your maintenance. I know you guys are asking about payment programs and stuff like that. We do offer a payment program, but it's not going to cover large repairs. You have to build that relationship with the third-party company. So this is why it's important to budget it as your money's coming in. A high percentage of your money is going to go to fuel, insurance, and repairs. So budget for it. The money's coming in. Don't come all in one account and live and have everything out of one account. Move that money to maintenance. That way, in the next month or so, or a couple months from now, you have money saved up for repair. And say, for example, you come in and you have money saved up and you still want to use Easy Pay. You can still use Easy Pay and still sit on your cash. But still, I would still work on getting this, because as I mentioned before, the article that I read about one of the number one uncertainties of drivers is going to be their breakdown because of their after treatment systems. So you have to prepare for that. What's going to help you be more peace of mind knowing that you have money saved up when that repair happens? Okay, and keeping up with your maintenance. I mean, if you got to break it down with technology nowadays, iPads, whatever mobile technology you have with notes, you can have reminders on your phone when your maintenance is due, when your oil change is due. You can download the manufacturer OEM intervals right from the website on your phone. All this information is available for you. The only thing that I would recommend you do is the oil analysis as well. If you're running that 50,000 mile interval for oil change, or if you haven't had an oil analysis in a long time, I would check that out. I would get an oil analysis done. I know the title is about buying used trucks in the 2021, but if you watch this video and you take in everything that I'm covering about how this market is, look at the questions coming in, the different stuff that, for example, this guy's coming in here. Should I buy a 2012 Freightliner? And now this is a prime example, guys, and this is why I'm jumping to this. Should I buy a 2002 Freightliner with 1.6 million miles? I had a 12.7 60 series, and I'm thinking a complete rebuild of the motor. Found one going for $10,000. Now, I'm not sure what you're saying. What's going for $10,000? I originally thought you were gonna buy this truck with 1.6 million miles for $10,000. That would be risky. That's high mileage. Anything that's gonna be this low. Anything that's going to be this low right here, guys, is going to be cautious, okay? I'm not saying you may come across a cool deal, but you got to understand how many people are in the trucking market, the used truck market. They want to buy trucks. Everybody's wanting to buy trucks right now. So if you come across a truck that's been on the market for a long time and it's really cheap price, I would have, with parts and everything, you would probably need 3 times that amount before you can. We had a guy comment earlier, 40,000 for a road ready truck. So just understand, this $10,000 truck might get to turn the key and have the truck started. But if you don't have more than this saved up, 2 or 3 times more than this saved up to put into this truck, you may be running into some problems. So, man, this live is pretty good today. I appreciate everybody joining us. Make sure to hit that like button. Shared a lot of good information. Sorry for jumping around, but that was a really good comment there, Kevin. I really just wanted to cover that. If you want to clarify if your 10,000 is what that 2002 is going for, or what, how long should you go before oil change on a 2008 with Cummins engine? Cummins is going to recommend you go like 50, 60, okay? If you do that, do an oil analysis, okay? Do an oil analysis. And if you give me the serial number, I believe the newer engines have oil analysis already built into it. So look into that engine. I'll have to get the serial number from that. But Cummins is they're building engines to be able to give you oil analysis without having to pull oil out. So that's really cool. They've been really trying to bridge that gap as well. Cummins is really trying to bridge that gap. The only issue that I have with Cummins is that they have a lot of third-party people working with them. So when it comes to a finished product, you're going to have a lot of combination of vendors that build one item. So And a lot of manufacturers are moving away from that. They want to be more in-house. They want to be the ones doing everything. I know I hear you asking about that PACCAR, man. As soon as I get a lot of PACCARs coming in, I'll get some more videos out for you. What I can do is probably cover a live, since we're doing mostly just lives on the week now. I'm gonna be doing some more videos once we're in the new shop, so I'm really excited about that. A couple more green tags left, so we're almost there. Let me see here. Let me catch up to some of these older questions. I think it's cheaper to purchase a new truck than a used truck, in my opinion, because you might be buying somebody else's problem. Yep, that's exactly. And it's a lot of time you're going to be putting into to find a good used truck. New trucks have problems too. Exactly. Any truck could have problems, And the only thing, what I've had some customers that have showed up to the shop where they have new trucks. And they have pretty large problems. What I would recommend doing is going back to whoever sold you the truck and figuring out something, either returning the truck, or there's got to be some kind of manufacturer warranty on that. The cost of a truck went up, but on the market, a lot of used trucks is junk. Exactly. I do not think that now is the best time to buy a truck. Moreover, the rate for cargo can go down. And this time the rate for cargo, I don't feel like it's going to go down right now. As I mentioned, these manufacturing not be able to meet this is going to take a long time to fix. So this backlog is going to go on for at least the end of this year. Okay, so if you're worried about rates going down, then I wouldn't worry about that, at least for this year. Okay, you're right about junk trucks. There is nothing but junk trucks out there in the used truck market. And some of the new trucks are the same. I see a lot of guys wanting to get into the industry, and they want to jump in the new shop and expansion Northeast. We are going to be expanding in there. This is phase 1. I appreciate that comment. And phase 2 is going to be coming. That's another thing that I'm already working on as well. I appreciate that. We did build in that area. We did build like that due to, of course, the budget. We're a small corporation, small shop, but we are going to be expanding into that other area. That's an additional acre right there. So we're going to be excited about that. I appreciate that, Ronald. It's going to take some time though. The space that we have is enough of what we need. If you've been to my shop, a lot of those trailers that are there are from a company that are using it as a drop yard as well. So a lot of that equipment is not ours. We're going to be more condensed in our new shop. We're going to keep everything nice and flow. There's still going to be trailer space, but when you come in, it's just trailer space for your repairs. So keep all this in mind. We're very excited about getting moved in. We're going to be really focused on the next couple of weeks on getting everything wrapped up, so we can all hands on deck, getting everything in. Overhead was $200 from Freightliner. Okay, that's pretty cheap for overhead. What kind of truck was that? That's pretty cheap. I wonder if that included valve gaskets and everything, or is that just labor only? Some of them will not include valve gaskets and other gaskets that may need to be replaced. But I appreciate that comment about the used trucks. That's very interesting. So guys, if you're watching this video, I know this is a pretty long video, but this is a live video, so I'm trying to cover some of this, a lot of the questions that are coming in. There's a lot of people that are coming in that are still watching, so I like doing these lives. We're still going to be doing short videos of the informational videos, but I really like doing these lives as well. So love your videos. I have a 2006 Volvo with the ISX. 400 horsepower. It runs rough off and on, cuts off randomly on power. It is missing a muffler. Do you have a suggestion on what it looks? Okay. 2006 is going to have high mileage ISX. You're going to have to go change your fuel filters first. Make sure you're not getting any aerated fuel. Aerated fuel can cause loss of power. So checking your basic stuff. Checking your basic stuff is going to be their number one thing as an owner to check. Okay, your fuel lines. Check your fuel lines to see if they look like they have any, if they're wet at all, if they have a lot of condensation on them, or if they have buildup from dirt where the fuel actually was leaking and the dirt sticks on them. Those are all things that you need to look for. So we keep moving along. Okay. Oh, we got a super chat here. What you got? Oh, I appreciate that, Amin. Appreciate that $5 there. While we kept passing this information on to everybody. Hope everybody is able. So the guy that's commenting about his ISX that is having issues is you're gonna. I would troubleshoot it first. Free Sun says, where can I find a reliable shop or a reliable dealer? I don't know. I haven't met one. Every time I meet somebody that brings a truck to my shop and brings one of their salesmen, I swear, I don't know. They don't know anything about trucks, but they promise, they swear that this truck is ready and road ready, and their dad has been in trucking since he was a baby, but they don't know anything about trucks. So I don't know. I couldn't recommend you to anybody because it seems like everybody can become a dealer now. So I couldn't recommend you to anybody personally. I'm sorry. Yeah. Just Phil just actually just commented as well about the $10,000 about the $10,000 truck. He wouldn't buy it unless you had 30,000 saved up. I mean, you could look on YouTube all day about the failures that have happened from guys buying, and I don't want to shine the light on anybody, guys. I want to make sure everybody is successful in this, because the more success, who's going to move this freight? We're going to move this freight. We can't outsource this work. There's a lot of foreigners that want to come into the United States to be drivers. I had a kid on my channel last week on when we talked about e-trucks. I had a kid on the channel said, and he was, I believe he was from Russia. He said that he would drive. He can't wait to come to the United States to be a driver. And it just shocked me, because a lot of the American kids nowadays, and I don't mean to attack us as Americans, but a lot of the American kids, they don't want those type of jobs. They want easier jobs. They want jobs that can pay them, all this type of money. But all that work is being outsourced. It's being outsourced to cheaper labor, to cheaper countries. So when you have these kids that are coming in from Germany, it was probably from Germany. Yeah, there you go. When you have these kids spending all this money on school and getting into all this debt and putting all these parents through all this stress from pushing them through school all this time, but they don't have a solid plan, it's kind of tough. Maybe they should be trucking and driving. I don't know, schooling and driving, or going to school and driving to help move this freight. I mean, it's tough. He's talking about financing trucks, and we talked about the issue of I feel like finance is still, when the crisis happened in 2008, it was because they were excessively financing on the house mortgage side. They continue to do this type of lending, but now they moved it to the automotive. So there should be really low rates out there when it comes to getting into these trucks. And there's a lot of lending that's happening. And that's kind of why the banks are kind of slowing it down, because it's become so competitive. So appreciate everybody's joining us and all these comments. I need a driver, or I need to sell a truck, 2 trucks. I can drive only one of them. Chris, everybody needs trucks, man. Chris Nelson says he needs a driver. Everybody needs drivers, man. Everybody needs drivers. I appreciate that super chat. I appreciate that donation. Guys, if you don't want to do the super chat, you can just do the donation. That would be appreciated. It's to help build the channel. I want to do some more videos coming up this summer once we're into this new shop. We got a new stuff coming up. We're going to be doing how to do different items. I know that we've already done, I get a lot of comments still on the tire, how to do a wheel seal. So we're going to be doing brake chambers. I want to get real specific on brake chambers, on how to get those installed correctly. I see a lot of incorrect installed brake chambers that come to our shop, and it shouldn't be allowed. Would anybody lightly finance a truck $40,000 with $10K down? Kevin, I'm gonna tell you, if somebody did finance you $40,000 for a truck, and you put $10,000 down, or unless you had another $30K, that's what you're trying to do it. I mean, you may be able to talk to a finance company. Who knows? I'm pretty sure they're gonna want some documentation, some kind of proof that it's gonna work. Then that's how, in most cases, that's how they're gonna work. They're gonna want proof that it works. Man, this is a super live chat. Everybody's on board. Make sure everybody hit that like button. Make sure to hit that like button. How many likes we got already? Only got 32 likes. Come on, man. Hit that like button. Everybody that's on here, hit that. Make sure to hit that like button. Refurbishing is expensive, very expensive. You're right. And then you think about, Kat, can you mention the location of the Northeast shop? Well, we're going to be moving pretty soon. And that's going to be our only location. And that's off of Bonneview Road and 20. We're just behind Premier Truck Group. If you look us up on Google, we've already moved virtually. I think social media is supposed to be moving in. Social media is supposed to be moved over as well pretty soon. But look us up on Google. That's going to give you where our new location is. We're not currently servicing out of that location yet. I'll keep you guys updated. I don't want to give any specific dates because there's so many things that are moving that we got to get wrapped up. So I appreciate that, Ronald. So we're still at our old location. Look us up on Google. You can call us or you can schedule an appointment online. Visit our contact us page. Be detailed, and be sure to schedule you some time. Okay, if you have a check engine light and you've been through quite a bit of shops and they're not able to figure that out, be prepared to either leave your truck because in most cases, if other technicians have ran through it a few times, it's not going to be either a simple job or it's going to take us a little bit of time to figure it out. So, and what we don't want to do is be like a quick fix. Oh, I appreciate that, Just Phil. Appreciate that $14. I appreciate that. Really nice of you. Thanks for the content. I came in late, but thought on pre-emissions truck like M14 60 series. Okay, if you come in late, I did mention, Phil, the only issues that I have with older engines is the availability of parts. Okay, because they don't manufacture them no more. And the remanufactured injector mess that you're going to run into often. M14s was a strong engine 10 years ago. And when it was still, parts were still available. And it was nice. It was nice. Even 8 years ago. But I'm going to tell you right now that an M14 now is going to be really tough to maintain. You're not going to be able to find parts. 60 series, we're kind of having the same issues. Injectors are really tough to come across, but eventually it's going to end up being like the older engines as well. You know, you don't see old M14s very often. You do still see 60 series. They were very, just DD15s are replacing them. They're replacing them. Bernie says something about a new truck. I don't know. I'm not sure what he means. Maybe he's talking about the guy that has an extra truck. I don't know. Ted, do you have a price list on the truck purchase checklist? Check out my videos. What I mostly tell you to is look at my DOT video. Okay, look at my how to do a DOT video, inspection video. Familiarize yourself what to check for. Check your coolant bottle. Make sure that coolant bottle isn't discolored. If that coolant bottle is discolored, stay away. Stay away. Okay. You know, and having it checked out by an outside shop if you can. It's going to be tough. You know, I don't have an exact checklist. It's kind of like going in and buying a house. You may have to get somebody to help work with you, somebody that has experience. How much do I charge? DOT inspection, you know, a DOT inspection, if you bring the truck, I believe it's $45 now. I think that's what the charge is. You can bring it by for an inspection. DOT inspection now, I'm going to tell you, a pre-trip inspection, a pre-purchase inspection is different from a DOT inspection. A DOT inspection, the only reason why I tell you to look at a DOT inspection is because it's going to familiarize with the hardware components, the brakes. Your chassis for corrosion, excessive corrosion, for paint being over the shocks. You know, those are the type of items you want to look for. You want to look for your brakes, your brake liners being not too wore, your brake hoses. You're looking at hard components. But when you actually want to look at the after treatment system and the condition of that, that's going to take a diagnosis system. That's going to have to take an experienced technician who knows how to work on that particular engine. who knows that particular after treatment system, who knows when he can pull up that information and pull up the history and able to, like Detroit, you're able to pull history from the server. What I like about Cummins has a read-only section of memory that's on there that's called the abuse history. And a lot of the warranty companies are going to ask for this if you do have a third-party warranty. They're gonna call for an abuse history. And what abuse history is, it's not nothing that you can go in there and try to change anything or reset anything once it's happened. It's in there. It's in the records. If the truck has overheated, it's going to be in the record. It's going to tell you for how long. It's going to tell you the severity of it. If it's lost coolant, it's going to tell you that as well. So if we have issues that come in that are major issues, those are things that we look for. So when we buy for a pre-purchase, those are things that we look for as well. If we hear different things in the engine that may sound irregular, those are things that are going to catch our attention to check those items. I had a guy come in, and shout out if he's listening. We checked our Cummins out for him, and it was I believe it was an ISX, and it was a newer truck. But I noticed the coolant bottle was kind of off, and I also noticed that the overhead had a really rattling noise, really bad rattle noise. So I did definitely recommend him not grabbing that truck. And I wish we were available for every one of your guys' purchases. I know that it's not easy moving a truck from a dealer's yard to a shop. I know that most of them don't allow you to do that. They want to be a little bit more they want to make it a little bit more complicated so that you don't have a streamlined approach to finding problems for their trucks, and people do that in the real estate market as well. It's really sad how some brokers will really put like a stress environment just to try to get a person to buy something, and but not really understand that, hey, it may not be in their best favor. I recall, and I'm going to get to your question, Phil. You know what? Let me get to you right now. Random question. Is there a way to straight pipe the emissions motors without tampering with the DPF? No, there isn't. Because if you're trying to straight pipe it and you're bypassing your after treatment system, there's an ACM, there's something that's called an after treatment control module. That after treatment control module is going to read pressures coming off of that after treatment system. And if they're irregular, then they're not going to be sending the correct signals to the ECM and the CPC. Then you can have communication issues. So no, you cannot just straight pipe it without having some kind of tune. But be careful with these tunes. Check out my delete videos. There's a lot of cheap tunes out there. I think you can buy some tacos and at Flying J, you can buy some tacos and a tune. I think the last time I heard it. So be careful. Make sure to do your research and not just get into a cheap tune. Yeah, unless you can, get the inspection done. And one thing I want to mention about used trucks as well. If you're buying from I don't recommend buying from an auction. Unless you have a process in place where someone's going in and checking on these trucks before you bid on them. Do not go and try to buy this truck and beat the bid, because you're going to win the bid. You may win the bid, and it may be streamlined because it's easy. A lot of these bid-ins are happening online. You don't even have to go and look at the truck anymore, but you don't know what you're going to get, guys. You don't know what you're going to get, and when you get it, you're going to be stuck with it. You got to put insurance on it. You got to put a lot of stuff. You got to tag it. You got to put everything in place to get that truck road ready. So it's a lot of investing. So a lot of investment that you're going to be putting in this truck. And I'm not trying to steer you away from getting a truck. If you guys are interested in getting a truck in the trucking industry, jump in. Just take these information that I'm giving you. I'm getting close to wrapping this up. We're getting close to our hour and a half of this super chat here, or this super live. I really had a good time, and I really enjoyed everybody that joined us today. I appreciate everybody that hit that like button. If you haven't hit that like button, make sure to hit that like button. I appreciate it. Everybody's super chat. If I missed anybody, we're going to keep moving along. What's good mileage to look at when buying a newer truck? The lower the better, but the lower the higher the price is going to be. If you get into the lower mileage and you have a lower price, be cautious about that buy, because there may be something going on with that truck. A lot of the lower mileage trucks that I've seen that go cheap are going to be trucks that have been like really ran down, like maybe a team truck that's just been nonstop. And so check the maintenance, make sure the maintenance is in place. If the maintenance is in place and the truck's still running pretty decent, and take it for a test drive. I know it's not easy to put these trucks under a load, but I do have one of my viewers that bought a truck with it was a DD15 with an after treatment system on it, and he didn't start having problems till he actually started pulling the loads. When he started pulling loads is when he started hearing the one box, and the one box was actually acting up. So it's tough, guys. Doing a regen, a park regen before a purchase is very smart. You know, you're gonna be able to read back pressures. So this is why I recommend having somebody check these trucks that are experienced, that are actually working on these trucks, that is familiar with the after treatment systems, that know what it looks like and how it needs to be, how readings need to be if they're looking at a park regen. Because if you buy a system and you have a bad DPF, you're going to end up spending that money. So it might be better to try to find out, hey, you know what? I'm going to end up spending this extra money. So let me kind of talk to this seller to go down on the price. But hey, because hey, look, you want to go down on the price, you got a bad filter, you know, at least you have some room. I'm not saying it's going to work. It may not work, but it could be worth a chance. Would you rather have a driver, but I have a 2006 Columbia and a 2007 Cascadia? I guess you were telling him to sell his truck. You go Dello, DD15, or synthetic. As long as you're running with the minimum requirements of the API, I think it's CK4. As long as it's CK4, you don't have to go over to, crazy synthetic oil. If you're going to do synthetic, what's the reason? Because you want to go longer intervals? Or if you want to go longer intervals, be sure you're running a oil analysis, as I mentioned before, because one report that I read about running these extended intervals, and this is why I'm against extended intervals, is because the viscosity can still be there, but the soot that gets built up in the oil after a long time, that soot is what can cause damage over time. That's what can cause more bearing wear, lower viscosity. Those are the type of things that can give you some issues. Before you go DD15 or Dello, synthetic, I think we talked about that. Are you talking about 500K on the drivetrain? Because 500K is on drivetrain. That's your 3-box change is at 500K, but I don't know. Your engine intervals aren't going to go that long. If you replace the coolant reservoir without replacing the entire radiator, I know it's a bad design. It's a bad design. It's a really bad design. But if you have a truck where you are at a point where your reservoir is going to need to be replaced due to corrosion and all that, I would look into doing that radiator at once as well, because it's going to save you some time. Definitely going to save you some time. And that radiator is made out of that same plastic as that coolant bottle. So if you sit there and you think about, because anytime we replace a coolant bottle and your bolts are stripped out, and we're talking about DD15s, guys, if you're not familiar with DD15s, their coolant bottle has a bolt that is, the coolant bottle is bolted onto the radiator itself, not the frame of the radiator, but the end cap of the radiator. I don't know why they did that. Maybe for streamline approach or streamline. But what we do notice is by the time the coolant bottles are that corroded and that wore out, I would suggest doing the radiator as well. It is costly. I saw a guy mention on my channel, one of my comments. Thanks for everybody that comments on the channel. I'm sorry if I don't get to everybody's comment, but sometimes I do read them. This guy was mentioning that he put in like 3 refurbished radiators before he finally decided to buy a new radiator. So I mean, and that's refurbished parts on a radiator. Imagine refurbished parts on injectors. When we talk about 60 series, when I brought up 60 series earlier, about why older engines are going to be tougher to get into. Would rather have a driver. Rather EGR. Hey, everybody's doing good. Hope everybody's doing well today. About to wrap this one up. I just kind of wanted to go over some of the other questions or comments. Nobody looks out for your best interest. A lot of people won't. Terry. I mean, it's tough that's like that. I mean, I guess just the way you look at our schooling system, the way that everybody don't cheat off your neighbor and all this, and it's so competitive. So it's just like that separation, If it would have been like team building at the beginning, then maybe in team building and problem solving, that might have been a different approach, might have been a better approach instead of, every man for himself, So I don't know. Maybe that's why. I had my truck for 5 months and I never idle and haven't had any issue. Good. I appreciate that comment there. Thanks for sharing that. You got a comment right here if you guys just join us or if you've been joining us. This is why I talk about not idling, guys, and how much headache it can save you. It says, this guy says he's had his truck for 5 months and he never idles and he haven't had any issues. So, think about that. 5 years and haven't had it. Don't idle, guys. If you don't have to idle, don't idle. Do oil inspections looking for metal or an aluminum. How can I do oil inspections looking for metal or aluminum? What I do is we just look for third-party laboratories. A lot of these laboratories, and I think you're from Houston, aren't you? If you're from Houston, I think there's a lot of laboratories out there. There's tons of refineries down in Houston. So I know there's some labs, local labs in Houston that they send you some bottles. Yeah, you can send your oil samples to them and build a history with them. Exactly. You can give them your truck information. So if you have other trucks, and you can do it on a regular basis, every oil change, and you want to look for more foreign material, any kind of aluminum, tin, anything any foreign material. You don't want, you start, eat coolant, fuel. Those are the type of things you want to look for too. Some of these tunes that you guys are getting that have put all this power in your truck, and if you're not doing an oil sample, you may be dumping too much fuel, and that fuel can be going into your engine, and you don't know it. There's a lot that you can tell from an oil sample. I was about to wrap it up, but there's a lot of people still on, and there's a lot of comments still coming in. I kind of want to get to all these comments. Trying to make up my mind on the engine. I was thinking of a 60 series until you said about parts. Can you find a replacement part for an older single turbo? You see, the older trucks that are not manufactured anymore, trust me, I'm not saying you can't find them, but for example, 60 series injectors are a mess. They're a mess. You can buy 2 sets. You can buy 2 sets, brand new sets from the dealer, refurbish, and they're still not 100% guarantee which one of those are going to work. You might have to mix and match. You might have to mix and match, and then good luck trying to return those because it's just a headache. So, and some of the cases, like for example, we get 60 series, and I'm not trying to badmouth 60 series. I like 60 series. The thing is, we're in 2021, we're in modern age. I think they stopped manufacturing 60 series in 2007. So what is that? That's a long time ago. They stopped manufacturing them. So it just takes time. I'm not saying that they're a bad engine. They're proven engines, but DD15 is what took over. DD15 is what's out. DD15 is what we're working with. I'm not saying we don't work with 60 series. If you do got you'll only find reman parts for them, and sometimes, and I'm gonna tell you this before, we've had a hit on a truck where it ran like on a 60 series where it didn't run correctly, and it's happened before, and we're hoping it's the case in this one. But even after we send it to the head shop, they're not all not all the time they're gonna find the problem. It's tough with remanufactured parts. What's up? Shout out Edward out of Lubbock. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate everybody coming in and joining this view. Okay, Gary, you just mentioned about your tune. If you're puffing out white smoke, if you're puffing out smoke and you didn't have that smoke before, and it's after that tune, it's because it's dumping fuel. You're gonna have more power. Diesels are gonna create more power by dumping more fuel. But what I would be concerned about is if you're not gonna get too much fuel going into your oil. So do oil samples. If you're not getting oil samples, or if you are getting fuel in your oil, then I would look into that. Yeah. If you're not getting oil in your fuel, but you're still getting that puff white smoke, the only issues that would develop over time is if you have unburnt fuel, and it collects at the top of the piston over time, it's going to build and it's going to get very hard. And what can happen is that carbon will break off a chip, and once that happens, it's going to start scraping the cylinder walls and causing issues. So that's the issues with overfueling. So that's one thing that I was talking about there. Okay, here we go. Rudy here says, if you buy a deleted truck, can you get fined if you are in Texas? No. The only thing is if you what I would be concerned about when you buy a deleted truck is what kind of delete it is, and making sure that have evidence that that truck has been run for a while before saying, hey, you know what, let me go ahead and get this truck. Because a lot of times what we see in our shop is trucks that come in after a bad tune happens. It happens after about a year. Okay. So for example, if you get a tune, and you think you've been good and it's going on for a few months now, I would just be cautious. Okay. So we get trucks in our shop after the year mark. A year afterwards, that's when they start coming in low power. And that's when it's pretty much already either a cylinder gone or a head, or by that time, it's just, you're going to put so much time and money trying to figure getting this power back on this truck, backward deleting it. It costs us a mess. So Phil, I would be cautious when buying deleted trucks. Make sure you have records that truck's been running for at least a year. Because after that year mark is really when you start seeing that wear from that overfueling. As I mentioned, the guy, the viewer that said about the white smoke after getting his tune. After that fuel, it gets over a long period of time and it doesn't burn. It gets really, really hard. It's like rock. And then when it chips off and it breaks off and then you got it inside your cylinder and it's in there with the cylinder and it's scraping up against the cylinder walls. That's my concerns that I have with deletes. Okay. And then not only that, is just most deletes are going to be older engine programming overwritten on a current engine. So you don't know. That's what I mean. You don't know what you get when it comes to when you buy a deleted truck. A lot of times, I appreciate that 5 from LTA or LTYA Logistics LLC. I appreciate you. I'm glad I'm able to help you. I'm glad this information is able to help. I gained some information from other lives, not on these particular subjects, but on other subjects, personal subjects or whatnot. So I feel like you guys can get a lot of information from these type of videos as well. I enjoy doing them as well. I mean, there's a lot of information that's coming in. There's a lot of stuff that I don't get to cover throughout the week. A lot of information that comes in from the chat or from all the comments across the channel. So yeah, I mean, I've mentioned a lot of these things that I talked about in this video and some of my other videos, but a lot of the new stuff that I talked about when it comes to the market and what the type of market that we're in now changes the whole trucking buying market. It was already a tough market when COVID started when buying a new used truck. It's got even worse. And these are what basically this video is wanting to cover. I know I covered a lot of things about the market, and it's just because if you're out here and you're driving, knowing what the future is a little bit more easing, I guess you should say. So this work is not going to stop. What I would be more focused on is how are you going to how is my equipment going to last the longest? Because I can't buy any good used equipment. I can't replace this equipment right now. And these problems, manufacturers backed up from semiconductors. Intel is building this warehouse, but by the time these things are going to catch up, by the time this backlog, these imports are not stopping. I've read they're wanting to bring in like the containers that they charge to, the 40-foot containers they charge from Asia to the West Coast or Asia to the United States. I mean, the rates are nuts. I remember seeing, I think it was post-pandemic. I remember seeing rates were around $1,100 a container, a 40-foot container. They're up in the $4,000 for a container coming into the United States, not going out. Not going out. The rates are still the same going out. That's why nobody wants to let their stuff going out. So the imbalance is crazy. Preventive maintenance and OEM parts win every time. I appreciate that comment. And that's how, if you've been to my shop, that's how we conduct business. We're OEM, we're maintenance. We don't do any modifications to the after treatment systems. We want to maintain them. We want to keep you rolling. And it's not, in some cases you're gonna have to swap filters if you've been running with a truck that has a bad filter for a long time, and this bacon blowing has been happening. And it's not nobody's really fault. It's not nobody's fault besides just the people not calibrating. The people not collaborating together correctly, the EPA, the manufacturers. And this is kind of why I feel like e-trucks is going to be a headache. And they're spending tons of money just trying to make sure e-trucks is going to work. And this has been going on for 7 years already. So I've read another article that they're trying to they're investing even more money to try to figure out if trucks are going to wait. I'm waiting on my sample results, and I threw the Cadillacs sample. So those are just items that I like to mention. I like to bring up them. I appreciate everybody's super chat. I appreciate the $5 on that. That was really nice of you for joining us. Make sure the guys hit that like button. If you haven't hit that like button, I may go ahead and wrap this up. This is a pretty long live today. There's still a lot of people coming on, so even buying imported motors are inflated. Everything is inflated. All the cash that got dumped into the market is just inflated everything. So if you look at gas prices are inflated, house prices are inflated, used trucks are inflated. Everything's going to be inflated. The only thing we can do is try to prepare by budgeting our maintenance, getting our maintenance done, and scheduling it. Okay, getting maintenance done. If you're going to get maintenance done once a month, once every other month, don't expect it to be like a NASCAR visit. Okay, that it's just impossible to get trucks in, inspected, checked out. You can't. It takes time. It takes time to get a truck in. Anytime you're rushing in repairs, anything can cause problems. So you want to be patient and plan these a week. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna drop my truck off in whatever shop, whether it's my shop or wherever shop you're using. Give them a week. Give them at least a week. If it's a tire change, I understand. You might want to go to something a little bit more quicker, like Love's Tire. Something's quicker like that. Something that's built for just tires. But when it comes to repairs and it comes maintenance and it comes to you're only going to be doing this once, every other month or once a year. That type of maintenance. Those types of things need to be scheduled. You can't. Thanks for all the info. I appreciate that. $4.99. I got another super chat. I appreciate that. Really nice of you there. I would like to pronounce your name, but I think I'm gonna pronounce it incorrectly. But I really appreciate that. Thanks for all the info. I completely understand it's a used truck. But would I make a big mistake going with a 15 engine? If you go with the 15 engine, as long as it's older than a 2014, 15, you'll be all right. Because 15, when DD15 first came out, it was a dog show. It was trying to figure stuff out. So, and I always recommend this to my viewers. I always say this, anytime a manufacturer comes out with a new product, it's going to take time to field test it and figure it out. So that's the same thing that happened with DD15. The bugs were fixed after 14, 15, after you get away from that auxiliary turbine that's behind the turbo. Once that's gone, they kind of made it a little bit more simple, and they even more simplified the newer trucks. On an ISX15, the same thing. Look at my ISX15 common issues. I say the 2016 and above. If the 2015, I want to say that's before their update. So check the fuel pump. Make sure the fuel pumps has been updated. Check all that information. The fuel pumps are the only thing that kind of crap out. ISX15 was still kind of new at this year, so I always steer clear away from the newer models. You say 15 ISX? It would be ISX 15. or X15. I'm sorry. If you're talking about X15, that's a single cam. How many miles are on this one? EGR cleaning or replacing it around 600K. Thanks to you, bro. Yeah, I appreciate that comment. I was kind of lost. We're talking about X15, or we're talking about ISX. So I kind of got off from there. I'm sorry if I got off on that. So that's what I mean. The 15 is not the one. The 15 is, and Ryan just helped me out with that one. The 2016 and above. If you go back to my common issues video, I want to say 2016, and you got high mileage on this one. That's pretty high mileage, 70K, 701K. So, I don't know what that one's going to be, how that one's going to run for you. What I would suggest you do is getting it hooked up with Cummins Insight, getting Cummins Insight, and look over the 2015 ISX 15. Look over, that's a high mileage. Look into it. I mean, look through that truck with a fine comb, because I can guarantee something's going on. Did you give me a price on what? I lost it because it's right here, but I'd have to look it back on the screen. So. Ronald says, Tad, what do you recommend on rears and gears? I would go by what the tag says on the door, OEM. If you try to go even with tires, I've noticed this with tires, and I'm jumping over. Sorry for not clearing up on that 706, but I wasn't too clear on the truck, but I would check into that video. And you want another maintenance video on D13? Okay, that's a good one. So Ronald, he says about the gear ratios. What do I recommend? OEM is what I would recommend. If you're looking over the road, you can look into the transmissions with more options, more speed, maybe 15 speed. 18 speed, 13 speed. If you're over the road, but more and more they're starting to simplify these transmissions more and more, and I see they're just becoming just basic 10s. If they are manuals, and they're going 12-speed automatics, 13-speed automatics. So I would just stay with OEM recommendations, just for the simple fact that you're going to be able to get the best fuel economy from that. I've had a guy that was losing fuel, MPGs, and was having an issue, and he was having an issue with low fuel mileage low fuel mileage. And what we found out, long story short, is he went with low profile 22s instead of 11Rs, and they came out of the manufacturers at 11Rs. So what you don't understand is 11R is of course a taller tire. So the rotation, you're gonna travel a longer distance whenever the tire is taller in one rotation. When the tire is smaller, you're gonna travel a smaller distance. Because in one rotation. So the computer doesn't know that. The computer thinks, hey, I got the same 11Rs on. And what's it going to end up doing? Your miles are going to be off. You're going to burn more fuel. You're doing more RPMs. And all because, it was changed from what it was manufactured at. Usually I say just stay at what it's manufactured at. You always have the best performance out of that. But guys, I think I'm going to wrap this one up. I appreciate everybody joining us today. It's already going on an hour and 50. I would like to stay on even longer, but all these questions I didn't cover. But next time we're going to go live again next Sunday. So check us out. We're going to be covering some more information. This used truck information, it seems like it's getting a lot of comments. So maybe we'll continue to cover this more. Be careful out there, guys. This is not a buyer's market. Okay, be cautious. It's just like buying houses right now. The prices are inflated. You want to be very cautious about everything. I appreciate everybody for the super chat. This one right here about this Cummins. Go through that with a fine comb. 700K is high mileage on the ISX Cummins. I really don't like that fuel system. They had the actuator style fuel system. It's a really problematic style fuel system. I'm not a real big fan of that style fuel system for the Cummins. That's with it has the actuators, the 4 actuators there. So what I would recommend you do is have it checked out by somebody that has experience with that particular engine, and let them know, hey, I want to buy this truck. Can you do a performance test on it? Can you make sure that everything looks good? Can you do a abuse history report on it so I can see what kind of condition this truck is in? And even so, at $700K, I would definitely have money saved up before putting that truck on the road. Yes, baking and blowing is not, you need to pressure wash them too, guys. So don't just bake and blow. They need to be pressure washed. And we're talking about DPF filters. I'm going to wrap this one up today. I appreciate everybody joining us today. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If everybody, I know you guys have probably subscribed with us already. If you're not, if you got anybody, know anybody that's in the trucking industry and you know this information would help, make sure to share my information, share my videos to them. We're going to be going live again next Sunday, and I'm going to be keeping you guys updated on the new shop. I appreciate everybody's support. And until next time, guys, be safe.